Okay, welcome everyone to another webinar and masterclass in our AMP series. And you all know what the drill is. If you want to let us know, where are you tuning in from? Where are you at? It's always cool to see where people are at and coming in from across the world. So let us know what's going on. And then before we got on this webinar masterclass today, the three of us were joking around about what is our biggest pet peeve when it comes to being on a flight, on an airplane, or in the airport. So let us know in the chat, what is your biggest pet peeve when it comes to a flight, airplane, etc. And I hope that some of you are not doing this pet peeve. That would be terrible. I really hope that some of y'all are not the culprits of this. So as you all dive in, let us know where you're tuning in from, and everyone, let us know what's going on. But then also as well, as you all get into this, let us know what's happening in your world as well. And so we'll get into it. But with that being said, for those that are here, as everyone chimes in and let us know where they're at, I'm going to share my screen. What are we talking about today? So if you're here, we had a lot of people on the back end as people are coming in where it's saying like, hey, I want to get better at targeting people that are IT personas and IT buyers. And I want to know the best ways to get in front of them. And so that's why I brought in Lauren and Jackie here to talk about this, because they sell to IT buyers. I'm not going to talk a whole lot today, to be honest with you. Some of you are like, thank goodness Morgan's not going to talk a lot today. So, because I'm going to start talk with them on what they're seeing with IT buyers, get super contextual with you all. This is what a lot of people ask for, so this is why we're here. But again, as we get into it, I see people coming in. If you're just joining in now, let us know where you're tuning in from. And then the question of the day for this webinar is also, where or when you go into a flight or you're at the airport, what is your biggest pet peeve? So let us know where you're tuning in from and where you're at. But I'm really excited about this conversation. So I'm going to just get into it, let them introduce themselves, and then we're going to get into the dialogue of today. So as we get into this, we'll go left to right, and we'll start with Jackie, and we'll come back to me. So Jackie, can you introduce yourself? What are you doing at Drata on a day-to-day basis? And then if you want to share a fun fact with us as well.
Yeah. Hi, nice to meet everyone here. Thank you guys for joining. My name is Jackie Nielsen. I've been selling in the cybersecurity industry for about 5 years now. Was at Rapid7 for about 4, and then just moved over to Drata recently, under Lauren's team for the last 5 or so months. Day-to-day basis, outreach, deal maintenance, you know the deal with just being an account executive, partnering with my SDR and different cross-functional teams. Fun fact, I would say, is maybe like I love traveling. That's kind of where the pet peeves came from on earlier when we were talking about it, but it's great to be here and here with Lauren as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Jackie. Lauren, talk to us.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. My name is Lauren Lynch. I'm the VP of Sales here at Drata. I've been in tech sales in the SaaS world, mostly cybersecurity, since 2013. Been with companies like Rapid7, Sneak, most recently Wiz, and then joined Drata here in February. So have a lot of experience across a lot of the topics we're going to be talking about today. So I was excited when Morgan approached us to have this conversation, because it's very, very top of mind. So at Drata, I oversee all of our sales for the US. So we have commercial teams, enterprise teams, and we're growing really fast here, which has been exciting. And then fun fact about me, I promise me and Jackie did not plan this, but travel is super important to me too. So the question that Morgan posed of travel pet peeves is very fresh, as I just flew back from Paris yesterday and flew to New York City this morning. So living and breathing travel, both personally and professionally, which is always really fun.
Yeah, you're locked in right now.
Yeah.
And cool, y'all. If you've been here before, you know who I am. But if it's the first time being here, Morgan Ingram, I'm the one who's hosting this webinar today. I'm a founder of AMP Social, went off my own 2 years ago, and we help people with social selling and outbound to convert into their top tier accounts with B2B sales teams. And today we're talking about, again, how to target IT, which is the majority of you where you're here today is because that's who you target. And the whole premise on this, and when I posted about it and was talking about it, is if you go on LinkedIn, most people are talking about how to sell to salespeople. That's most of my career has been selling to salespeople, marketing people, but not many people telling you how to sell to IT or how to cybersecurity. So that's why we have this conversation here today. So as we go through it, a lot of people are already going to ask me this. You will get a recording. I already know y'all going to say this and ask me. Someone's going to troll me here in a minute and be like, oh, for the recording. You're going to get the recording. So don't, you can ask, but the answer is here. So you're going to get the recording. All is well. Don't worry about it. Things will be great. All right. And also a byproduct of this is the 3 things that you're going to learn today and what we're going to cover. So again, we have proven plays from these 2 that are actually doing this. They can be innovative ways on how you can reach this target persona and how to actually close these deals you're looking for. And as a part of it as well, as we have this conversation, there's 3 ways to win an Amazon gift card. We're giving out $50 gift cards. Again, this is what we always like to do. If you take the information from this webinar, this masterclass, and book a meeting and you screenshot it and send it to me, you can get a gift card. If you ask an amazing question live, which is up to my discretion on what that's good or not, you can get a gift card. And then if you share your biggest takeaway on LinkedIn, tag AMP Social, you could win a gift card. So I don't know, people should be probably a little bit excited about that. Give you a gift card as you go look at, what Christmas gifts you want to buy. Cause I'm already getting the list. People are like, yo, here's what I want for Christmas. I'm like, dang, like Thanksgiving and Halloween don't even get any shine. So anyways, that can help you out. But more importantly, right, let's dive into what we're going to learn from these 2 individuals today. Like I said, at this point, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to let them do their thing. And they're going to guide you in a conversation today on how to book and sell more meetings in business with IT and security buyers. So Lauren, I'm going to hand it off to you all.
Thanks, Morgan. So as Morgan said, everybody feel free to like jump in with questions. We want to keep this as conversational as possible. We've certainly got some slides to guide us through the topics today, but don't be shy. So let's hit the next slide here. So I'm going to give you guys just a super brief overview of what Drata does, not because you guys are necessarily looking to purchase Drata, but I think it does help frame the conversation, as trust is a topic we're going to talk about a lot today, and it's really core to Drata's mission. So at a super high level, we have solutions that help to automate security and compliance. So really helping companies achieve and maintain compliance frameworks like SOC 2, ISO 20700, and many, many others. But really, like, we are trying to be that trust layer between companies. We help businesses earn, maintain, and prove trust continuously through the products that we sell. So there's ways for companies to look at where they're at in their compliance journey, to be able to report on that to auditors and show and again maintain trust so that they can achieve these certain compliance statuses. But then also we have a product where companies can log into it and look at a company's full risk posture in terms of where they are in their compliance journey, like vendor registration and questionnaires and things like that. There's a lot of trust that's built in natively to what we do. So really how we want to approach people is with that same trust mindset, earning and building trust and credibility throughout the sales cycle, because that's so core to what we are actually selling to our customers. If we want to hit next slide here. I want to talk about like the buyer's mindset. So just also to help frame the conversation today, most of my career in SaaS has been selling, as I mentioned earlier, to cybersecurity people. All the principles that we're going to talk about today will apply to both cybersecurity and IT professionals. So we'll kind of use some of those interchangeably here, but the themes all remain true. So I'll start with like the fact that buyers are incredibly overwhelmed. They are getting hundreds, if not thousands, of prospecting emails on a weekly, monthly basis, daily basis at some point. Probably not 1,000 in a day,
Well,
but definitely.
I want to comment on that for
Please,
you.
yeah.
Lauren. Like how many messages do you personally get a day, and how many of them are relevant? And also everyone in the audience, how many sales messages do you get per day, and how many of them are relevant? So I'm curious on the audience, but Lauren, like what's your perspective of being a VP?
So I get probably 20 or so notes on, like, I don't know, maybe like a day every 2 days, something like that. It's funny, even when I got back last night, I had like a gift on my doorstep from somebody that's trying to sell me something right now. I get a ton of LinkedIn messages on it. And even like through, like, I don't get as many as some of our buyers, but even the, like, let's call it 10 a day, I'm like, oh, like, where do I look? What's interesting to me? Do I even have a project where I can tackle this? So that's incredibly overwhelming for me, and the tools that I can buy are even less in terms of like the volume that the IT and security buyers look at.
No, thanks for sharing that context. We
Yeah.
got Catherine here. 20 emails a day, 95% are not relevant. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great point. Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And the classic part is too, like, I will get some that do not even use the right name, or like things that you can so clearly see are like a cut and paste. The ones that I respond to, like this guy that actually sent me something last night, I responded to his email because I was like, all right, he took the time to send me a physical gift. Like, I will take a meeting with him. So yeah, it's very easy to get caught up in the mess if you're not figuring out how to stand out. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And then despite this being such a competitive and crowded market, at the end of the day, people buy from people. And I think for those of you that are on the call today that maybe grew up selling in a pre-COVID world to a post-COVID world, there is big differences in those two backgrounds and skill sets. A pre-COVID world, there was a lot of in-person interaction happening, a lot of events to meet people at, a lot of, hey, like, in order for us to close this opportunity, we want to come on site, meet your team. That has dwindled in some aspects post-COVID. And so it's even more important that you build a great relationship via Zoom. Even better if you can take that off of Zoom. People still will meet with you in person, but at the end of the day, people want to feel like there is a genuine interaction happening, even if it is a Zoom interaction. So even for those of you that are selling Zoom or you're going face-to-face, like, people buy from people. They want to feel excited to have this conversation with you. They want to feel like you care about solving their problems and that you're not just trying to push them through a sales cycle or your timelines.
100%.
Let's go to the next slide. So this is even more, so a lot of what I just talked about there is pretty much the case, I think, for any buyer buying anything right now. But if we take that a step deeper, selling into IT and IT security, this becomes even more heightened. If anybody here has been in, I'll use cybersecurity as an example, and you go to one of these conferences, you walk the floor, and I'm somebody who has been in this space for over 13 years. I walk through a show floor and I'm like, that vendor sounds like it does the same thing as that vendor. This is confusing. What does that person do? What does that person do? If I'm confused and I am an expert in this space, our buyers are definitely confused. And there's a lot of pitches that sound the same. So there is already this skepticism that you guys will face from the second your email or your cold call or your LinkedIn message hits their inbox. So just know they're inherently going to be really cautious. They're going to be looking for, like, what's the time savings? What do I know about this product? How can this actually help move the needle in my program? And so if you're not addressing those things, it's really easy to get lost in the shuffle. I already touched on vendor fatigue, but even I'll just touch on one thing here, using super buzzy words like reducing risk if you're in cybersecurity, or improving visibility, which would apply to a lot of IT things. Those are like flags to immediately get caught. So it's like, how do we describe what we're doing in a way that actually speaks to the challenges that the customer might be facing versus what might sound good in a marketing channel? And then the other thing I would say here too is there is a lot of technical nuances to all of the products that are being sold that it's very hard sometimes to get attention from just an email that may not be able to capture. It's like, you got to strike this fine balance of, like, I want to tell them what my solution does, but I don't want to tell them too much that it prevents us from having a call. But there's this a little bit of a dance that you do here, that you want to give them the information, but you also want to be able to have a conversation so that you can discover a little bit more and figure out, can you actually sell to them? I think that's also an interesting thing that a lot of AEs that I've seen sometimes don't focus on. The good ones really do. They focus on the fact that, like, how can I actually get this person to a conversation to be able to even determine if my solution is a fit, versus coming in every time and saying, I know I'm a fit. I know I can solve this problem. It's a little bit of a balance there. I guess, Jackie, would you add anything on that?
Yeah, actually the last point there where it's like coming in like overly confident they're gonna solve something like that, because our buyers are extremely smart and they're educating themselves like constantly on a daily basis. So it's like foster like try to get like engagement and coax them into a meeting where it's like, we're going to collaborate together. We're going to learn together if this is like the right fit now, or maybe it's later. And I think being open and giving them the no almost like establishes trust sooner than being overly confident saying, this 100% will, it's 100% like worth your time. Like they're going to be like, okay, sure. Yeah. Like maybe. And they're not going to be that willing, I think, to give time, where it's like, if you have more of an educational perspective, that lands a lot better, just from what I've found being in the industry too.
Absolutely. One thing, I just saw Catherine's question in the chat about like getting past gatekeepers. We're going to talk about this a little bit later in terms of like how you're doing the research, but a lot of what we'll be talking about is like going to people in the organization directly via like LinkedIn or other social channels or emails, or obviously cold calls too, because yeah, getting pushed to that like, hey, register as a vendor on our website type thing, like I think we all know you'll be sitting in purgatory for quite some time, hoping that they
that's not gonna work.
respond to you. So
Like
yeah,
hot potato with a lead. Yeah.
So everything we'll be talking about today is like how to like don't ever go to those types of sites. Like we want to just get right to somebody to have, again, going back to the people buy from people, like you want to have that human interaction to be able to understand, can I actually solve something? And that's a much warmer lead to get into the organization than trying to go other routes. Let's hit the next slide here. So I want to hit on it. Some people may be familiar with this. This is not a Lauren Lynch-ism or a Drata thing, but this is a pretty common 3 whys framework in a lot of sales trainings. But you can think about this really from everything from prospecting to how do you want to set up your sales cycle, how do you want to lead the buyer through the journey that you have, really starts with the question of why. And I think the best sales reps that I have ever worked with in my career are incredibly curious. They are asking why throughout the process, both in discovery, in their research of how to get into account, like why would my product be interesting to this buyer? And so this is a framework that you can use both in your outreach and in your sales cycle. But the why change. So we want to think about like, why are we telling them they should look at something different or do something different than what they're doing now? Why you? Why is your company such a good fit for our products and solutions? Why are you, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, a great fit for this? Did you recently join the organization and you've got an initiative to improve, in the Drata lens, like your compliance program or whatever your security program looks like? Do you personally have a driver to actually implement change in your organization? So tying that personal why to somebody is super important. This also applies to, again, why. Think about as the seller, why your company is the fit for this buyer. So you can look at this in 2 different ways. And then why now? Obviously, we are in sales to figure out how to bring customers across the line in a certain time frame. Now, I know with a lot of different products across the space, it can be more transactional, or I've worked at places where like the sales cycle might be a year, but really you got to tie some sort of now to this. This doesn't mean can you buy tomorrow? It's just, why is this a priority for your organization and how do I help shepherd you through that process? So just keep these, we'll kind of keep touching on these 3 whys throughout, but I just wanted to hit on the concept here.
100%.
Okay.
And
Yeah, please.
And one thing I wanna call this out here, because so for Catherine, the follow-up question that is like, how do I get to the people if I have the info? It gives me the name and phone numbers, but most direct mobile numbers are masked, so all they have is the HQ number, which is worthless. So I'm gonna share this tactic. This is a little unorthodox, so we're gonna see how y'all feel about it. So the thing is that like if you genuinely cannot get to anyone at all, the best person you need to reach out to is a salesperson. So what I would do is I would actually go find the numbers of a salesperson in a company, which is like the most easy thing to do because no one's in there. They want people to hit them up. So I'll call them and be like, hey, I'm struggling to get in front of so-and-so. Like, can you help me out? And then they're like, wait, okay, like what exactly do you need? And so I'm able to get emails, I'm able to get extension lines, or even sometimes the direct number by reaching out to the salesperson inside that account, so then I can go bypass all the other stuff. So again, unorthodox way. I'm not saying use this every single time, Catherine, but it is a different angle on how to approach this, because people at the end of the day, they're salespeople, have like a sales cover, right? I'm willing to help you out because that's just the way that it is. And it's really helped me a ton when I really don't know where to go. And again, I'm not using this every single time, but it is a good way to stand out. So I don't know if y'all have any other ways on how y'all think about like getting in front of people and when obviously you run against this obstacle, but that way has worked a ton for me personally.
Yeah. It's a really good point. And actually, one of the products that we sell here, it actually is a benefit to the revenue organization because it'll be able to like show a company's like trust posture basically. And so we actually use that quite often of like reaching out to a CRO or someone in the revenue organization and asking like, are your deals being held up because you're not able to show this type of compliance or you're not able to show this level of trust with your buyers? Obviously, it doesn't apply for every cybersecurity solution out there, but it's really fair. And obviously, there's a lot of us sellers out there that want to help each other out. So I think you can get a quicker in that way. All right, so I'm going to touch on just quickly here because Jackie will hit on a few of this in some real world examples, but differentiating yourself. I talked earlier about how crowded and noisy this market is. So really personalizing these interactions is key. Somebody asked earlier in the chat about using intent data. Both here at Drata and other places I've been, we use 6th Sense data, looking at like who's clicking around on the website. Like, yes, you can absolutely see things like that, but there will also be times too that you need to do your own research. So figuring out who does this person follow on LinkedIn? What other things do they like? What are they interested in outside of work? How do you personalize this to get them to look at something a little bit faster and obviously get through some of the noise? Offering value beyond the product. A lot of places I've been fortunate enough to work have really good customer advocacy programs and things where they want customers speaking at events and participating in a customer advisory board, things like that. That is value beyond the product. If you think about some of these CISOs that we sell to, and again, this can apply to any other industry too, but like they want to build their brand as well. So they want to be able to show like, hey, I'm advising on this product, or I spoke at this event. There's things like that you can create really good, genuine connections with these folks, but then also give them opportunities to let their talents shine and let their knowledge get out there too. So that's another way that you can build that. And then the last one I'll touch on here is just like those strategic partnerships. So think a little bit about like intent data here. This is a lot more common in the cybersecurity world, but I think IT has this as well. But like, there's all these partners that might be selling solutions that are adjacent to ours, or sometimes they'll be selling competitive solutions. So how do you build relationships with these partners, tech partners, resellers, things like that, to be able to get intel about these accounts and figure out what projects might be top of mind for them? How does this buyer like to interact with vendors? Like, there's a lot of that information you can get outside of just your research on LinkedIn or your 6th Sense data and some of those other automated use cases. But I think, Jackie, I'll let you, if there's anything else you want to share on this, then I know you're going to talk through some examples.
Yeah, I'm going to hit on examples, but I think like you're going to notice a key trend where it's all about like being intentional with everything that you're doing and like differentiating yourself, creating your own brand and story, your own narrative, and then like figuring out a way to make sure that that lands and resonates with our buyers, because they're looking at things, they may not be responding right away. I think building like strategic partnerships with resellers as well is super important. But that's kind of where I'm going to hit on in terms of like outreach methodologies, things that I've been doing that have found success. I've been 5 months into Drata. I'm going to share some examples too from my days at Rapid7 of how I built out my network in SoCal, and I'm kind of doing it all over again in a different territory scope at Drata. So I think what I did at Rapid7, I'm copying and pasting here, and I found quick success within a short turnaround. And I think where that starts too is spend a lot of time in like the organization phase. Like you don't have, KPIs, you don't have a lot of expectations within the first couple of weeks, months, maybe I would say like the first month. Just focus on being a devil in the details, organizing your focus, looking at your account deck, grouping them too, not just by accounts, but also by contacts themselves at the account. I'm constantly on LinkedIn. I'm constantly looking at new hires because new hires kind of like point you to a company investing in a specific effort as well. Looking at verticals, different industries too, based on your use cases. And then this like effort initially also helps you become an expert on what you're selling and the solutions that you're providing to people. And then pulling different use cases of current customers and educating myself on that and sharing those things later on. Having this sort of organization to tailor your focus and still have a high, output in terms of your messaging is important. but making sure that you're able to set the time up, group things by how it can be easier for you to simplify and tailor messaging, but also maintain the same, activity and output at your company. Outreach consistency, I think I'm not just like sending in a week, a client 12 emails and spamming them and then, expecting that to be a first meeting. I am looking at, 8 to 12 specific touch points. I think the slides cut on us.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I got disconnected. Oh, we're back.
Okay. Perfect. But you want to think about how many different mediums am I using for touch points? How am I going to get in contact with these people? So obviously it's sending the emails, it's sending calls, at LinkedIn connections, sending a note with your LinkedIn connection. I'll show just like a few paths to success on that. You just focus on your creative niche. Some people are really successful in cold calling. Some people are really successful in different ways. I have things with my own team themselves where they have a specific thing that really works for them. I try to do the same thing, and for whatever reason, I don't have the same output as them. And I think just finding your creative niche in your outbounding is really important because, we're going to be doing it. It's part of our day-to-day jobs. We have to do it. You have to get your name out there. You have to build your brand in a new territory. So figure out ways to make it fun for yourself, figure out ways to make messaging fun, get creative, pivot as well, and change things if they're not working. I used to spend way too much time tailoring messaging to the point where I wasn't even sending the messages and having the output that I wanted. So the whole point too is use AI. I use it on a day-to-day basis with different things that just take too much time, whether it's creating a new cadence of a use case that I just uncovered from talking to a specific vertical, whether it's sending email follow-ups, whether it's, cleaning up emails so they're not too wordy and they're succinct. I use AI constantly. I'll show just like one trick that I use in terms of like building sequences to help me save a lot of time. It helps me create a new sequence on a new feature maybe that the company launched. I can create a sequence around that in 20 minutes where it would just take me too long, like an embarrassing long amount of time, not using AI. And I think last thing is I'll have like an example of like the success recently of a meeting me and my SDR set. But I think buyers too, they're overwhelmed. And if you are getting reached out to by multiple points of contact from the same company, that's a little bit too noisy. Buyers are like, you guys don't even know like what you're doing. There's so many people reaching out, and calling out and having like a specific effort. And I meet with my SDR twice a week. We have a Monday meeting where it's like, hey, let's focus on these groups of accounts, these specific contacts. We're messaging all day long, like take them under your wing. They want to be an account executive one day. And the more opportunity that you give them to step up, and the more like warm, ways to find success where it's like, hey, we're seeing this email get clicked on a bunch of times. We're seeing this buyer intent kick up on 6 cents. Can you add them to a cold call cadence? Can we split this account? You take managers below, I'll take directors and up titles, and figure out ways for us to gain context around this account for when we do eventually set that meeting. It's dividing efforts and doubling success, but also not making it too noisy for buyers and calling out, yes, like 2 people are reaching out to you right now. We both are counterparts. We want to meet. I've just recently started doing that here, and it helped me really find success in setting those initial calls, because that's essentially been my focus in the first 5 months, is creating conversations, being intentional with first interactions, and then hopefully that leads to future sales too.
Before we get tactical, there's one additional question I want to ask, because someone asked this too. What is your take on texting? Like, and I'm going to make sure this is the question you're asking, and you can clarify it. Cold texting, what's your take on it? And then what's your take on just texting once you have the relationship established? So those are kind of the 2 parts that are going on here.
I would say cold texting, I'm a little wary on. I usually like to have some sort of warmer like conversation, like maybe messaging on LinkedIn, maybe some sort of back and forth via email. I think if I got a cold text, like I just recently bought a car and I was getting like spammed like with text messages.
They're crazy.
And it drove me nuts. Like, I don't know how they would get my number. It would just like, it was intrusive. It irritated me. But when I'm in a deal with buyers, I like often am texting them and like doing one-off conversations. I think they kind of prefer it too, if they're like prioritizing your deal, because that's where you kind of get into, and we'll talk about it later, like same side selling, where it's like you both are on a team trying to like, you have mutual success tied to each other. That's kind of like, if you're being strategic, if you're making a good first impression, you'll earn the right to have that direct line of communication very easily. I don't usually have a problem with that. I just think our buyers are so overwhelmed. They're getting spam cold calls. People are using, constantly cold calling them. I think if they get a text too, just earn the right. You're going to do it quickly to earn the right for a cold text. And I think that goes a long way of like having the mindset of like earning their time, earning their communication, earning their respect and focus. That's something where I think us as sellers, pivoting our mindset helps and goes a lot more, a longer way than we think.
Yeah, I would just on texting, I think it's an incredible tool when you are in the deal cycle with the customer, but especially in IT and InfoSec, like I would steer away from that until you are like in an active process. And even there, it's funny, sometimes people will still be leery to give out their cell, or they don't want to be texting vendors. I've had that too. So it totally is a personal preference. And I think more times than not, lead with not doing it and then figuring out when you've like earned the right to be able to ask that.
I think cold text, like it sets the precedent that you're going to be pushy on them and different, like not be respectful of time. So they're already wary and skeptical of sellers anyways, to make sure that they're like hearing the right things, they're validating the product, like they need to make the right decision. So if you're pushy on them from the jump, it may just set a negative impression with them.
Yeah, let's
cold FaceTiming.
FaceTiming someone in IT and cybersecurity sounds like literally you're gonna get reported.
Don't do it.
Yeah. I'm like, even emails they get mad about sometimes because they get so many. So like a cold text, you could just, if they're having a bad day, I even, there was a few texts I sent back where I was like, please take me off whatever list I am on, like when I was buying a car, because then we don't want to be car salesmen either. And I think that's a stigma we're constantly fighting. And it's like, if you're doing things without earning the right to right off the bat, it just, especially with our buyers, like you got to earn the right to, in my perspective and experience.
Cold FaceTiming IT, that's crazy.
That's funny.
I want to go to this slide because we're going to leverage AI, and I want you to kind of go through this, but so people can just see what we're about to go into. But I want to have a very quick answer to this as well. This question on the follow-up that Brett had was, let's say you had a cold call conversation with someone, because we mentioned getting on the phones earlier, and then you used the number that you called because it was their cell phone number to text them. Is that okay, or would you still be weary of that?
I think that's bad. Like, that's where I was like, just have some sort of like conversation established initially. I think that's fine. Just don't abuse it. Like, don't start texting them every day, trying to follow up and like aggressively with a meeting. Like, if they're not answering your text, they obviously are busy. Like, our buyers are extremely busy and already are fighting like bandwidth issues. Most of them probably want another team member. They're usually a lean team. So be just thoughtful about it. I think after a cold call, like that's very normal, being like, hey, like I sent an invite over for us to connect based on our conversation. Looking forward to chatting with you. Maybe don't send a text, every day leading up to that, being like, please join, because it's also, they're like, well, do people normally cancel on your meetings? Like, why are you so worried about me not joining? Like, there's just certain things that they think about.
That's a good point. So let's get into everyone's favorite part, the AI. So walk us through these prompts and how to execute them and how people can use this right after.
Yeah, so I think just being at Drata, like we're very pro AI just to make your life a lot easier with different things at my last company. So this is like 5 months of me learning about AI. So I'm very open to other ways that people are leveraging it just in their day-to-days. But what I found successful is you have to have the right prompt to get the right output from AI. AI kind of has its, hallucinations at times. It's not always accurate. So one of my team members, they've mentioned that they've used Prompt Cowboy, which has been super helpful, where I literally, anytime I'm making a new sequence, it's like, hey, I want to create a 10-step cadence for, managers, directors based on process-based issues and tailor it to, this specific output for my company value. That will create a very strong prompt in terms of like, hey, this is the objective we want to set meetings. Hey, this is the context that you need to incorporate with every message, everything that we're doing. And hey, like this is, the specific value prompts. Here are the resources we want included in emails. And then I use ChatGPT. You can use just like separate chats for things. I also use prompts too for like different projects for everything I do on a day-to-day. Like I have an email cleanup one where it's like, if I'm too wordy on something, I have another one where it's just like different verticals. So I can just put in, a specific contact LinkedIn and say like, hey, like let's create, an email or a LinkedIn message that's brief for this specific contact at this company. This has just helped me a ton in terms of like day to day, but I use ChatGPT projects because I input the instructions and the prompt for Prompt Cowboy. That way I have a project where I can just do multiple inputs on multiple contacts and multiple emails or follow-ups that day, whatever I have to do that I don't want to spend a ton of time on. That's where I use AI just to help clean up like any bandwidth for myself, because it's like I want to be running deals, I want to be doing more output. I don't want to be spending hours creating the content that I want to send. I want to be sending it and like seeing success from that.
So 2 follow-up questions on that one. The first one is Prompt Cowboy its own LMM? Like, is this
Yeah,
its
yeah.
own?
So it's like its own website. It's like free to
Okay,
use
I've
too.
never
Like
heard of
there's
this
no
in my life. I
charges
thought
on
this
it.
was just like
Yeah.
your special product that you
No,
just built.
it's
I'm like,
literally
man.
promptcowboy.ai, I think is like the website name. I
Okay,
just
cool.
stumbled upon it a couple months ago, and it's been like a lifesaver because I would get varying outputs with ChatGPT that would drive me nuts. And I didn't know what a prompt needed to be just to make it say what I wanted it to say. I also didn't want to spend time again thinking of a right prompt to get the right output. I would honestly like recommend a couple of you guys like in the audience, like go test it right now and like think of a prompt that you would do to just like save time. It'll create like a very extensive checklist. It also gives you like ways to improve the prompt where it's like name the top 3 value propositions of what you're selling, and then it'll incorporate it. And then my output has just been so much more consistent to where I'm actually again like outreaching, not creating it, the content itself. Like I shouldn't be spending time there because the whole point is to send it and see
Yeah.
some sort of, you know,
I had never heard of Prompt Cowboy in my life, so
yeah,
new
try it
information
out. It's been
for
a
everyone.
lifesaver.
Yeah, I'm excited to go cook with it. And then as we get into like actual messaging here, talking about these projects that you create, I'm assuming what you have projects on, like you said, executive messaging or probably your target account list. You probably have a project shared with your SDR. Like, how many projects do you have running right now? Which one do you find you're going to the most to?
I have a ton of running right now. I actually like
Yeah.
was like, I should probably clean this up, but I use it for a lot of different things. So it's like one, in the beginning of the week when I like speak with my SDR, I'm like, how can we like keep, you know, the momentum going? Like we've been outreaching on this specific topic. This sequence seems like kind of like a 101 concept to like introduce the value in a very like kind of bland way. And
Yeah.
then one way we thought about it was, okay, let's create like a 2.0, like a 201 type cadence where we're diving into a little bit more detail, showing them like very true outcomes, creating like giving them customer case studies. Also too, like sometimes I'm running deals and then I learn of a different value proposition that I never thought of before. So it's like, I would say I have like 5 on a day-to-day that I'm using with like email cleanup, like new messaging and creative tailored outreach. Like I try to hit at least 25 top account contacts that are like, if I set that contact, it'll be great. But I use AI and I have like a tailorization project specifically where I'm like, hey, this is the person, this is the title, this is their LinkedIn. I want to have like a couple different ideas for messaging based in like hit on these 3 different value props. That helps me like copy and paste a bunch of like 25 different names that day to send tailored messaging to, but it only takes me like an hour, maybe a little less to do that versus like spending 30 minutes trying to craft like the perfect email. That's just not a good use of time.
And then you never do it.
Exactly. Like you'll send 2 that day and then you're like, your brain is just like, you know, not working because you spent so much time. I did that and it's like embarrassing that I did that when I'm like, wow, I could have just saved myself so much time using these types of things.
And okay, so we're gonna go probably into like how you go about this.
Mhm.
Breakdown for this on like the messaging, and then also someone asked a question as well. Which AI model do you find once you get the prompts from Prompt Cowboy, which models do you like using for the messaging? So you can cover all that, but you're gonna go into it, I know.
Yeah, in terms of like AI, kind of am still dabbling in figuring out what's helpful. So like I like Gemini too for certain things, like in a Google Doc where it's like cleaning up different things that I'm trying to say. I also use it for like thinking of LinkedIn posts too, but I usually stick with Prompt Cowboy builds the prompt for me. I usually use like the pains varying by position. So I'll try to keep it position specific because you're reaching out to a specific contact. And then it's like I can tailor and include like the vertical value within that concept. And one thing I learned early on in my career was that pain varies by position. And I think being in our industry, we talk about people, we talk about process, we talk about technology. C-levels are the ones that are looking to avoid the overhead, the budget increases of hiring like multiple more people too. Like unless the business is scaling and like they're trying to drive more revenues, they're building headcount for sales. that's a strategic initiative that they're happy to do, but they're not looking to expand specifically, most likely our IT and security teams, because that's not a direct revenue like accelerator and generator in their minds. It is something that's a necessary like requirement in companies to have like solid practices, but they're looking to avoid people. So most of our products will save time on some level. So it's like hitting on that for a C level, like, hey, we've had people that were spending so much time, they were thinking about hiring 3 more people. Now with our, solution that they purchased and implemented, here's a case study where they avoided doing that. It saved a ton of money. And now like they're more productive than they were with the same amount of team members. I think too, with managers, they're the ones asking for the headcount budget. So their processes are broken clearly.
Yeah.
So when they start noticing process pain, people not, there's just messiness, there's gray area, there's human error that's happening in, what their end goal is. They're missing initiatives, project timelines, especially like engineering teams too. Like they have deadlines to hit. When you start talking about how you're solving like process issues, they don't have to go ask their boss for a headcount. That's something that resonates too. And then end users, like highlighting the features, the UX, UI intuitiveness, how it's easy for users, like reviews about users saying how much easier their lives are in day to day. Like those are the day to day in the weed type issues. And you still want to talk to those people. Are they the buyers? No, but they're the ones in the weeds. They're the ones seeing all the problems right in front of them. And then that's how it gets bubbled up to the hired account. So I still reach out to end users. I think it's important. I think I learn a ton from them. So when I do set the buyer, that's where it's like, I have this context now where it's like, I can assumptively say like, hey, others in the industry find this to be an issue. But the end user told me that when we had a one-on-one, but I wouldn't, if I'm not reaching out to multiple contacts at an account, I don't get that extra depth in terms of like what's going on too.
Yeah.
I'll just throw out too, like Chet just put a good comment in the chat. Like buying is, I think they say like on average, there's like eight people involved in a buying decision. You may not talk to all 8 as a part of your deal cycle, but know that they are absolutely behind the scenes as a tester, as an influencer, both good and bad. So this is like Jackie's point here of like trying to reach out to different people throughout the organization, either to get into the account or again, once you're inside the account and like working the opportunity, it's good to get perspective across the organization, or else you could find yourself in a situation where you maybe didn't know that there's either a champion or a detractor or somebody that maybe doesn't have one of their pain points solved for. Like it can help us to create a much better case.
Yeah, and I also think too, like the perspective I have when I'm outreaching is I'm not expecting a reply. I think we send a lot of emails and I think the replies are minimal. I think we can acknowledge that. But I do think to that point, there are like almost up to 8 people involved in an evaluation process. If I'm pulled in to evaluate something at my company, I'm going to search my email quick. I'm going to look online for the person that we're working with at that account. So that's why I think like LinkedIn, I'm going to hit on like why it's a creative niche. But if I have an email from them where they're encouraging like collaboration and trying to like get me involved with certain things, not just the buyer. Like I know we always want to meet the buyer and the person that's going to sign our quote, but I think going like those different layers of like the titles and the position that may be involved, getting them involved quicker can help like them validate, things get done faster, and then you're going to get to the buyer sooner. Or maybe it's going to be so easy because the whole team is advocating for your product. Where you don't need to be the person that's going to end up signing the quote, which sometimes happens as well.
Yeah, adding the context is really important, and we're gonna go into like getting creative on LinkedIn because you just mentioned it. As you dive into this, I want to call back something that was mentioned earlier: is keeping the email short. Now, I've coached a lot of people that will sell into IT and cybersecurity. They're like, no, I need to write an autobiography because it's more technical. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, okay, like I don't sell to that, so I don't know. So you're saying keep it short, and you're in the weeds in this. You've done it at multiple companies. What do you think is the reason that still keeping it short works when people think they have to be technical with this persona? So I'm curious on your take on that as we go into LinkedIn. And then people in the audience, have you all seen the same thing as you sell to IT and cybersecurity, that you thought you had to keep it really long, and you actually found it better to have it short?
I think when I first started, I was very verbose, to say the least, in some of the outreach I was saying. But if you think of like why I like am constantly creating new cadences, because if you think of like outreach as a way to teach yourself things, like just because you're writing a long email, I think that's a good effort for you to teach the solution that you're selling to yourself and become an expert. Do I think that email that's like a page 5 pages long and very extensive. Do I think anyone's going to read it? No, because I don't even read emails that are that long, like that come in my inbox. And I also think like the mark of a true, like strong salesperson is to keep it succinct, is to be able to keep it simple too, because the whole point, like, I don't want to give up on my information via email. I want them to meet with me for 30 minutes. And just because I know how to get technically in the weeds doesn't mean I should on outreach, or like you can get technical if you're doing a POC follow-up for like specific things that you guys walk through that day. I think that's where you can be a little bit more verbose. But if you haven't talked to this person ever and you're sending them, you know, a biography on why what you sell is great, cool, but they're probably not going to reply to you because they have all the context they need to decide whether or not in that moment, if they need the 30 minutes or not, which they probably don't because they read the autobiography that you sent about why the tool is great. It's always like giving them a hook essentially, and like a little bit of like a teaser into like, hey, similar company, similar industry, they found success with us. They had these issues. Curious if it's the same or different for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think our buyers are like really, really informed too, like Jackie calls out on the side here too. Like they've done a lot of that research. So like you're not necessarily trying to teach them how, in our case, compliance automation works. It's more like, give me the punchy facts of why you want to get on a call with us so we can show you some of this live. Don't save something for the call and don't get it all out in the email.
Mm-hmm. And I saw Kathy's comment where it's like sending a note for a connection request. I do it because it increases my odds. I also think like why I fixated on LinkedIn is I remember like being in a career development class in college and seeing LinkedIn's that had thousands of connections, that posted a lot, that were engaging with people, that they seemed like they knew a lot about their industry and they took pride in that. Like that's kind of where I've focused on things in terms of like being, you know, educated in the industry. I think with our buyers too, if you're taking the time to self-educate yourself, they'll lean on you more. Like I have champions where I've sold to them at Rapid7 and we still chat here and there just to keep each other up to date. I think there's a lot of opinions in our industry and having one is good. And I also like, I don't see the harm in sending a note from just like our buyers where it's like, hey, figured I'd reach out. This works for me. I have another person on my team that has a different way of doing it that he finds a ton of success for, but it doesn't work for me for whatever reason. And so I think finding your creative niche, again, it's like all about copying and repeating what works for you and then changing and pivoting whatever doesn't. And so this is where it's like, I send this usually like a general, like, hey, compliance challenges, would love to hear more. And that can be a meeting where it's not an op. Like, that's okay though, but I want my focus is like meeting more people in our industry, meeting more people that I can have in my network that I can count on later as well. I'm not expecting and forcing an opportunity conversion just from a first conversation. I'm more focused on like being intentional and like connecting with someone else. I also think with LinkedIn too, I try to post a lot. I also like found another niche for myself with events where it's like, I think our buyers, I think our companies too hold webinars to learn about a product. I think using that to your advantage too, and kind of being a funnel for one, leads for yourself, but two, a way for them to look at someone on LinkedIn as a way to educate themselves in the market. So that's like, hey, like we had, you know, a Drata that was a corporate event. We had a link in registration. I wanted to use that for my own page though, because it's my network that I'm focusing in on. So I can help funnel my network to an event that my company's holding. I also think like to the point of like connecting with resellers, knowing tech partners, knowing like also just industry influencers that are also buyers in the market that can recommend you and have events with them. Like that was the San Diego Cyber Group meetup where I got to meet with a bunch of different people in the space. I talked about Rapid7 and I was with a partner too, so where we were kind of dividing and conquering there. And then at Rapid7, I had a lunch and learn. So I'm trying to think of ways to do that here too, because I think holding a lunch and learn is really great from like a prospecting strategy where it's one demo with hopefully like 50 to 80 people in attendance from your different territories. You're giving them an opportunity to see the tool. And I also think like the ripple effect from lunch and learns, like if you hear like an ooh and an ah, like from one of your prospects, it's probably going to be contagious to all the other prospects that are quieter on that call too. Where this lunch and learn, I think we ended up like getting $800,000 worth of pipeline. I think the ASV at Rapid7, with just being in the MDR space, was a little bit bigger, but that was just 8 deals essentially for us that came from just 1 hour. So it's like think of ways for them to learn, think of ways to draw attention, think of ways to create like a tailored follow-up with people, because they all know that they need to learn. They all know that they're going to learn something new every day, and it could be about whatever you're selling. So like foster some sort of collaboration and brand for yourself. And also on LinkedIn, like if they see the email, usually when someone emails me, I'm looking them up on LinkedIn right away. And so if people are looking you
Are
up
you
on
sus or
LinkedIn,
not?
yeah, it's like, do I want to meet with you? And if I see a profile with 100 connections, never posts, and kind of could be like a spoofed LinkedIn social media account,
Yeah.
that's going to make me probably continue to ignore it. But then if people check mine, and I see people do it too, where it's like, I've sent them an email, I've sent them a message, then they look at my LinkedIn page and then they'll respond to me too, because it's like, I'm a real person and I'm really trying to showcase and highlight that on LinkedIn by having an opinion, creating ways for people to educate themselves about the industry, also like subtly my product too. And then on the next slide too, I'll just talk about like messaging to LinkedIn videos and how to be a little bit tailored with that too.
Yeah, I wanna shout out that you're doing these events. I think the biggest piece is, I think a lot of people think of prospecting as you always have to solicit, and like prospecting or just reaching out to someone as an invitation. Hey, come to the event, come do this, come check it out. So, and I look at these are also in mails too. So don't, for all of you that have in mail credits and you're like, what do I do with them? Like invite people to things. It doesn't have to always be
Yeah. That
as
way
you
it's
said.
not like, hey, 30 minutes, please, because they get like 100 of those a day.
Yeah, like nobody's looking for that.
Yeah.
And the thing, and like they're just not. And the thing is, like, you want to have that invitation. So this is gonna be rapid now because we have 9 minutes left. I looked and I was like, we are
I
cooking right
know the
now.
time flew.
I was like, yo,
Uh,
we're actually cooking. But I want to shout out to everybody in the audience and let us know, has this been helpful and impactful for you so far? This is the first time where we're doing super niche just to this persona. A lot of people ask for this, so I want to make sure in the chat that this has been helpful and impactful for you so far on some creative ways on how you can reach out to this persona. And I just want to make sure that it's helpful for you all. But yeah, as we have about 9 minutes
we'll do
left,
the rapid fire on the last
Jackie's
couple.
gonna do the
So it's
rapid fire
concluding.
for us.
This is where just a couple examples, right? So it's like I sent the tailored message, they didn't reply. I did send a video, essentially like just a minute long, very just like, hey, I'm a real person. This is why I think we should meet. This is like kind of like my proposed hypothesis of why I think you may have pain and why I think we could solve it. And it does get engagement usually. Like maybe it's not right away, but it does get responses sending those videos to tailored accounts. And then partnering with my SDR, this is like, again, the divide and conquer efforts of acknowledging that two people from your company are reaching out to them. We actually had, a top account prospect of mine put us in a group chat and send us his scheduling link. So it does work. It does, taking the time to prep and be diligent and partner with them does show like more of an output in terms of getting those initial meetings set.
And then we talked about that. So showing for the first call.
Yep. And I think pre-call prep, again, just know why the company like makes money, know what's going on currently, look at the call attendees, see who you're meeting with, look if they came from a past customer, and then key decision makers, if it's not that contact, look into, and be able to name drop like, hey, I saw, you're connected with this person too. Like, when do they get involved in the evaluations, just to maximize and show that you prepped and did a simple Google to look around on things. And then recent hiring, like always, like if they're hiring, they're investing. If they're ramping sales, they want more revenue. How can you help them save time elsewhere as well? And then I just think being intentional is kind of like the theme throughout the entire day today, where it's like, just go that extra mile, be intentional, be genuine, and care. Like not just care about you getting the sale, but care about them finding the right outcomes that they want and that they're after. That's running a good discovery, to Lauren's point earlier, being very curious, setting an upfront contract so like they know how that call is going to go. Understand the why if they took the call, undercover like the company top priorities, not just theirs, but the company's, so you can tie that value bridge. And then understand how they like to evaluate and mold yourself into that process, that they like working with you, and hopefully you can get a referral later on.
So
And then
yeah,
I think just building your champion, like they follow you everywhere. I've had some of them come in that helped me in terms of like thinking about my career move to Drata, because they had Drata as a product. They loved it. And then when I was, needing a reference within 48 hours from a prospect request, and it was very contingent on a reference, I could only get that set because of a prior champion that I built at Rapid7. So I think being intentional with first interactions and not just the transactional cycle of a sale, will do you, you know, more positive than negative by just taking the time to tailor and be genuine with the interactions. And to identify your champion, like understand if they're a recent hire, how they can drive and influence decisions at the company, building trust, having good rapport, getting on that texting level with them, delivering value too, like helping them learn and educate to themselves and like prep them to propose this internally. How you can do that and build that trust is just driving collaboration. So empowering them, being that technical advisor to them, someone that they can rely on to get to the end goal. And because you guys are now at this point, you decided that your mutual commitment, it's a win-win outcome when your success and theirs is tied together.
And go back to like what we started the conversation with like being genuinely curious about this. That's why we have like the concept of why in here so much. That's how you build genuine rapport with somebody. They feel like you're vested in their success. You understand the challenges they're trying to solve for, and you're really like asking questions because you want to understand versus asking questions that hopefully help tee up your product. Like people can see through that really quickly when you show up to a call and you've got this like very
Script.
clear
Yeah.
list. Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, I'm going to ask you this question and then I'm going to get this answer and then I'm going to pop to another question.
And then I'm going to ignore the answer and not
Yeah,
say anything about it and keep going
correct.
to my list. It's like they can feel that weirdness and staleness in interactions too.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I don't know something, I just ask them and I'll learn from them more often than not because they know more than I, like they're in that role. I'm better at selling. Like I sell every day. They do their jobs every day. So like leverage them to learn and be better too about the things that you're prescribing and saying as well.
Totally.
100%.
So yeah, we can hit the kind of wrap here.
Just like kind of wrap it up. What should people do with all this information that y'all shared with them?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lauren.
I would just say the biggest takeaway that I would give you here outside of some of the amazing prompts that Jackie has is just showing up as a person, seeking to understand versus trying to find an answer and like sell into it. People can sniff that stuff out from everything from your cold outreach to how you show up in the discovery, POC, and all of that. You have time to help show the value of your solution throughout your sales process. So focus more on the genuine rapport building and figuring out how you can solve for a challenge versus trying to just close a deal because people will see through that.
Definitely.
Work
smarter, not harder. Use AI. Don't be me like I was for 3 years. Too much time to tailor outreach. Please save your time. Actually do the output and not thinking of it.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else y'all want to add? Lasting things for people to take away. Y'all added some amazing insights here today. Thank you for taking your time. For everyone else, thanks for the questions you provided. But anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
I would just say like have fun with this. At the end of the day, too, like we said before, people buy from people, and like they're like I respond sometimes when I get somebody that like uses a personalized note and they've called something out about my profile, or like they saw where I went to school, or like they tried to make some sort of personal connection. Like it's fun, it's funny, or like they use creative outreach, or they say like a joke in their outreach that, again, keep those like within reason. We don't want to get too cheesy with that stuff, but again, like just think of the things that can set you apart and like what you would respond to. Like Jackie said earlier, she probably doesn't want a cold text message, but like she probably would text with somebody who she was trying to buy a car from maybe later in the sales cycle. But yeah, just remember, like, what would you like in a sales cycle?
Exactly. I think just like taking their mindset and like using it as like everything that you do, just think of what they would like and just try to mold and pivot in different ways that would get success. Because the more you pivot, the more you change things that aren't working and not staying stuck in your ways. Try new things, do different things, and then you'll easily find what's working for you.
Yeah.
Last thing, could be rapid fire from Alyssa. Subject lines, tips for the IT persona. Brett, I know you just added something in there, but anything y'all would say on like subject lines and how you think about them, maybe different than the other personas?
I like using first names in mine, like Jackie at Drata, like let's talk, like prospect name, like things like that. I try to stay away from buzzwords like we mentioned earlier because it's like I'll see a buzzword and then I'm like with different things that I'm looking at buying. So I just try to, again, it's the personalization. Like it's me at Drata. This is my brand with Drata's brand, and I'm looking to meet with you. And then it's like hopefully they click on that. I don't think too much about subject lines because it's like you constantly change it and see what opens because emails aren't the, silver bullet of success for all things. So I think just like changing it, but I use names mostly in subject lines.
Anything to add, Lauren?
Yeah, I would just say like keeping it simple and don't use those buzzwords. Like
Yeah.
that's the quickest way I think to get sent to somebody's spam.
Spam.
And I would also be careful too, and we didn't touch on this as much, but like especially in IT and cybersecurity, stay away from links as much as possible. That's an easy way to get sent to somebody's spam. And also our cybersecurity buyers are very aware of phishing attempts anyway, so they won't click on a link anyways, even if it didn't get sent to their spam. So just again, remember like the buyer that you're selling to.
Great call out. Well, if people want to find you and they have more questions, things of that nature, where can they find you? And then we'll close out for today.
Shoot us a message on LinkedIn. I told you guys I'm all over it. I'm on it every single day, so I'll get back to you when I can, but I would love to connect with whoever and chat more.
Yeah, same here. Thank you for the
Awesome.
time, Morgan. This was fun.
No, thank you both. Thank you for sharing all your insights, your knowledge. My hope is that everyone listening in, you take this information, you go book a meeting, you close some deals. So hopefully you have a blessed rest of your day, and we'll see you all the next time.
Happy selling. Bye, guys.
Bye,
Cheers.
guys.